ST 2016. This is interviews, music reviews, and more. This is The Hodder Show.
What is up, everybody? We're rolling out of you here today on episode 303 of The Hodder Show. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on a bit of a comeback edition here on The Hodder Show, as I was off last week due to some technical issues. But we're back in black here, folks, recording for the first time in the new apartment, and I apologize if you are hearing a weird noise. It is this weird fan thing. I cannot figure out how to turn it off right now. And I have to record this now, so unfortunately, that is that noise if you hear it, but it should not be in any of my other recordings. I have my little space here all set up. The move went as great as it could have. I'm very excited. We love this new apartment, and man, I'm super excited to get things going. A little bit of, when I had my last move, it took me a few weeks to kind of get into my groove again. Probably going to be the same with this. Might be a few weeks before I'm back kind of to full form. I don't know about video content yet, but I'm hoping that, as of next week, I can be back to form here. But either way, just bear with me over the next couple of weeks, a few weeks, as I kind of just figure out my kinks and get back in the groove of things. But I have a really, really fun episode for you here this week as I sit down with my buddy Josh from Still Loading Podcast for a bit of a catch-up episode. I hadn't talked to Josh in a while. He had a child from the last time that we spoke with him back in February, actually, for my 5th year anniversary special. So Josh kind of updates us on that in his life, talks about what's been going on with his podcast, as well as a few other kind of random things. I love having Josh on because I learn so much whenever he is on, and you guys are really going to enjoy this conversation. I do have to give you a bit of a heads up. We were using a site that I was not familiar with to record, and everything was great during the recording, but it recorded the wrong audio on my end, so my audio sounds really weird. It's still listenable and everything, but just a heads up on that. It is not my normal audio, but because Josh is such an entertaining person, he does a lot of the talking, which was great for this, because if I was doing the majority of the talking, it might be a little unbearable just because of the quality of the audio, but we don't have to worry about that because Josh is the man with the plan. And we can have a lot of fun here today. Before we jump in, I want to thank everybody for their support on episode 302 of The Hodder Show a couple weeks ago when I had my man Ev Gallows from Judgment on the show and did a showcase of Judgment's brand new EP that just came out, a few weeks ago now, Define Alive. We heard the EP in its entirety, and then Ev actually did a track-by-track breakdown as well as some fun other music conversation. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to go back and listen. It was a lot of fun. Ev, my man, thank you very much again for all of the support. With that out of the way, we are ready to roll into today's episode of my chat with my good buddy Josh Covel from Still Loading Podcast. Let's get into it. We got my buddy Josh from Still Loading Podcast back on the Hodder Show, and he has a very pretty mouth, ladies and gentlemen.
Who, me? What's up, man?
How you doing, buddy? It's good to see you.
Well, I'm glad you like my mouth so much. Don't tell my wife. She's gonna... Can't tell her about
she's going to be really upset.
Our torrid podcasting tryst.
Boy, full disclosure, the reason I said that was earlier, he wanted to make sure that we could, you could see him talk behind his microphone.
And he just really likes my mouth. I don't know what it is.
Oh, geez. So
that's a way to start a show, right?
That's it, man.
Talking about mouth stuff.
Yeah, talking about mouth. Hang on. I didn't say we were talking mouth stuff. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Buckle up, folks.
Anywho.
So, Josh, man, what's up? How are you? The last time we heard from Josh, it was February. No. So it was February 5th on the 5-year anniversary episode of The Hodder Show, which was the last time we heard from Josh. But we recorded that a couple weeks in advance because something major was about to happen in Josh's life.
Yes, I became a father.
Yay.
I still am a father.
Jesus,
nothing's changed. Everything's very good. My life is okay. So I became a dad in January, and to a beautiful baby girl, and it's wonderful. She I don't want to say her name just because I want to keep that a little bit private. Yeah, but
We'll call her Ron.
But she's doing well. Been a little cranky the last couple of days, but who knows? Maybe she's teething already. But I have no idea. I don't know what the timeline for teeth coming in is, but apparently I did read though. Apparently, like babies can teeth as early as 2 months, which I was like, what? 2 months in, and that thing already has teeth growing. I mean, she bites everything as it is now. Like she sticks every goddamn thing in her mouth. She's just learning. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Like she eats well. Like it's awesome. It's been one of the most exhausting and stressful things of my life, but it's been very fun too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, like obviously we talk, pretty regularly, so I've been checking in, and obviously, and is she still sleeping pretty good? I know that was one thing.
Yes, she sleeps through the night. She is sleeping through the night, which is a godsend, because that's Courtney and I were going crazy with not being able to because infants, most people don't know this. I shouldn't say most. I did not know this, so I assume most people didn't know this. Infants only sleep in 2-hour stretches when they're newborns. So, and I mean day or night. It's not like they just they sleep for 2 hours and they wake up during the day and then they sleep all night. No. It's consistent. It's all night. They are waking up every 2 hours, and you have to sleep train them and get them to fall asleep through the night and hope that their sleep windows last longer than their wake windows. And it's exhausting. And Courtney is already when we have our second kid, I'm like, motherfucker, second kid, I don't want to think about this.
Yo, pump the brakes.
I'm still reeling with not being able to sleep well from the first one. So we'll see about. I mean, let's be real. It'll probably happen. I'm just not looking forward to the first 2 months. I'm very grateful. I had a good friend of mine, Erica. Actually, she is. I've mentioned her to you before. She's the host of The Apex and the Abyss and Monster Madness, and she also gave birth to her second kid. Literally, her kid was born, I want to say, less than a month after my daughter was.
Oh, really? Wow.
Mm-hmm. And less than a month after, and so we're just texting back and forth all the time, and it was really helpful for me to have someone else other than my wife who A, had already experienced it before, but B, was going through it literally at the exact same time I was. And I think that was, even though it's not that long ago, it's not even, my kid will be 6 months later this month.
6 months already? Wow.
So almost 6 months already.
Time, I can't, feel like it was just literally yesterday that we were talking about the fact that she's going to be born any day now.
I know, it's wild, dude. But but it was, even though it was only, in the last 6 months, I can't imagine not getting through that without someone to else to vent to.
Sure, yeah.
I can vent to my wife, but that only will make, at some point, that's going to make her upset too, because she's experienced, she's in the trenches with me. That'd be like if we were in the trenches, in war or something, and we're sitting next to each other. I'm like, this trench is so fucking shitty, isn't it? At some point, you'd be like, I'm right Dude, here with you. I get it.
I am also sleep deprived. I get it.
Versus if you were in a shitty trench, I was in a shitty trench, and then you're in another shitty trench down the way, and we're yelling back and forth isn't this trench fucking shitty? And you're like, yeah, it fucking it becomes camaraderie versus just anger. That was a weird metaphor and analogy for us, but it kind of works.
No, I absolutely get what you're saying. It'd be hey, you could talk to your buddy TJ about it, but I have no earthly idea what I'll be like, oh yes, I know sleep deprivation because of because my cat keeps me up, whatever. It's no, dude, this is a completely different ballpark.
And my wife was the one who got the brunt of it too, because not the brunt of me complaining, but just the brunt of the sleep deprivation, because the kid needs to be fed, and we breastfed. So, she breastfed. She's not getting anything from me.
You didn't personally breastfeed.
Yes, I did not personally try to
breastfeed. That's how you
breastfeed.
felt. I need to clarify that.
I thought it was a good opportunity for a setup, and you didn't really spike it, but you got it.
I kind of sort of like,
you kind of lobbed it a little bit. It worked. But so she had to feed her. So she was feeding her every like 2 hours. So for the first first week or so, I would wake up with her, like just because she would wake up, I would hear her, and I was still anxious, and so I'd wake up too. But then after a little bit, I just slept right through it. I wouldn't even hear the baby wake up. I would just like just pass the F out.
Nah, I'm gonna stay here.
I wasn't even trying. It's not even like it was a conscious decision. Yeah. It's just like I slept through it. Poor Courtney, man. Like, oh my gosh. And I'm getting anxiety thinking about having another kid now. Like, I don't want that right now.
And it's not like it has to happen tomorrow either. Like,
no, it does not. Thank God.
Like, like my mother always said to me, like, because my sister and I only 1 year apart. So she was always like, it was great for us to wait the year. But there was a couple times where she was like, it would have been nice to wait like an extra year even, and I'm kind of like, okay, I'm going to duly note that.
Is your sister younger or older than you?
Older. She's older.
Older. Okay. So you were the one that she rushed.
I was the rush. I was
How
like
nice of your mom. Like, I could have waited for you.
I could have waited. Well, no, it's like, it's one of those things too, where it's like, she was blessed because I was a wonderful baby, which is probably hard to believe now, but like I was a wonderful baby that slept through the night and everything. So like, and wasn't very demanding. So it's,
that's how my daughter is too. She is really well behaved. She's a really good baby. She sleeps well. She doesn't fuss a lot. Like she's been fussy the last day or two. So maybe, like I said, maybe she's teething, maybe something else that we don't know. But she is a really well-behaved baby, so we're very lucky with that. That's also why I'm nervous about having a second one, because like, what if the second one's not as well-behaved as she is? That we have a 2-year-old or 3-year-old running around, and we have this crying, screaming infant. We'll see how it happens. But anyway, what is up with you, though, my friend? It has been quite some time.
Yeah, man. I mean... well, actually, as you guys are hearing this episode, it'll be the week of my move. Actually, it'll be the first week that we're in the new apartment.
Well, so as we're recording this episode, it's the week of your move. Yes. When they hear it, it will not be the week of your move.
It will be the first week I'm in the new apartment.
Oh, okay.
So we're not moving for a couple weeks from today, but yeah.
I totally fucked that up. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Because this is, as you guys are hearing this, it is August 5th. Yay, happy birthday, Sam. And that's going to literally be the first week we're in a new apartment. So this is kind of a bittersweet episode, I'm just realizing, because this is the last time I'm going to be recording in this room.
Oh, I'm honored to digitally share that space with you for one more time.
In my ghetto apartment. I'm so excited to move, man. I'm so excited.
Well, you're almost there.
I'm gonna have like a closet or something to record in. It's gonna be awesome.
And then speaking of podcasts, though, did you hear about the news from Audacity?
No.
I teased you a little bit about. I teased this a little bit to you.
What is going on with Audacity? Lay it on me.
Okay, so there's been news. So Audacity is free. Is a free audio recording software that I use for my podcast. A lot of podcasters use, and it's honestly really, really fucking good for being free. Not just for being free. It's good.
It's a powerful software.
It's powerful, and not. It's borderline professional in some aspects. Not completely.
Yeah. It's not Adobe Edition or anything, but as far as the fact that it is free,
for the fact that it's free, it's a professional.
It's amazing.
For a free software, it's professional level.
Yeah, absolutely.
For it being free, if you're
Audacity.
But so I love Audacity. But the thing is that Audacity was a shareware thing. It wasn't owned by anybody. It was just this project that people were doing and made. Well, a corporation bought the rights to it. As of now, they're still not charging for it, but they are now going to be tracking data like social media apps do. So technically, they could listen to any of your recordings.
I mean,
yep.
I was just going to say, they're welcome to listen to mine because eventually they're going to be up on it anyway.
I think it's more that you're willing to put that out there versus like if like they're going to be gathering information on your computer about like what programs you use. Like it's much more invasive than an audio program. A fucking audio recording program is now going to be spying on your computer. I know that sounds really conspiratorial, and it's honestly it's doing what Facebook and Twitter and all the other social media programs do. It takes your data and they sell it to people. That's literally all it's doing. It's selling it to people so that way they can sell ads. It's all meant for advertising to bring it back into that whole capitalistic bullshit thing. So that's what's happening with Audacity. Now, good news for you, TJ, because we checked before we recorded, you're running 2.4 point something. This update didn't go live until the 3.0 version. So as long as you don't update your Audacity, which you really don't need to, like ever.
No, you really don't.
It's a really solid program. As long as you don't have to update Audacity, you're going to be fine. But if you need to re-download it, you either will want to find a safe older version download, because there can be viruses and shit out there, or wait a little bit until I didn't know that this was a thing until recently, but till some hackers fork it. What it basically means is that they strip the data mining things from it, and essentially they split the program in two, and then the people who bought Audacity keep their whole data mining bullshit thing. And then the hackers like kind of keep going off in a different direction. They literally fork the development of the program into two different ways. I didn't know about that.
I didn't either. I learned that.
I literally learned about that recently. At least I saw it on Twitter. So take that with a grain of salt. But it kind of makes sense. Like you can literally like someone could program it to take out all the invasive stuff, or decode it or whatnot. So it kind of sucks. Like so. All you other podcasters out there listening, if you use Audacity, make sure you're using an older version or find an older version to use, because the new one, unless you don't mind, like I'm like the realistically all they're using that data for is just to sell it to other companies, so those companies can then buy ads in other places. That's literally all it is. Which Facebook does that on your phone. Twitter does that on your phone. Instagram does that on your phone. Well, Instagram and Twitter or Instagram and Facebook are owned by Facebook. I know what you mean. Yeah, but yeah, so it's no less different than that. But it's kind of annoying to me, at least, that it's like this was free audio software that no one gave a shit about. I mean, well, people gave a shit about, but like no one gave a shit about making money for. And then a corporation came in and bought it up, and now all of a sudden we have to deal with now we have to deal with more data privacy issues, and it really irked me when I read this.
And it's been this way since at least the last since I was 15. So it's been around at least 15 plus years, and it's been this way for that long. It seems weird that they would sell now, but I mean, it must have been the right offer, right? I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know the details of it. Like, I don't know how, like, because it was free stuff. So it was like shareware. So did they was it basically like anyone could just come in and buy it up, or was it something that a deal actually had to be negotiated? Well, someone had to have owned the IP of Audacity. Like, the actual, someone created the branding and everything in the actual program. So that's the only thing I could think of is whoever that was, maybe they must have came in and said, hey, we'll give you X amount of dollars for it. And they were like, okay, screw it. Like, they've been running it for all this time. It's like,
So
whatever.
it's, okay. So I just found an article from BBC about it, bbc.com. Open source free tool with 100 million users worldwide is popular with podcast and music editors. Its updated policy says data can be shared with its Russia-based infrastructure company, WSM, as well as regional law enforcement. Audacity says the only data it exchanges with its users is software updates and error reports. But since the updated policy was published last week, there have been angry calls from concerned users to uninstall the product or revert to an older version. And a technology website, FOSS described the most recent version as possible spyware. One could not expect an offline desktop application to be collecting such data, phoning home, and then handling that data to governments around the world whenever they see fit, it wrote. So, yeah. Audacity was bought by Cyprus-based firm Muse Group in April 2021. Muse head of strategy Daniel Ray told BBC News, "We don't know anything about our users. We don't want users' personal information. That doesn't help us." The company, which bought Audacity in April, intended to release more frequent updates and wanted to alert users, Mr. Ray said. And the policy, written by lawyers to be understood by lawyers rather than the average person, was a requirement for any software that is sent and that sent any form of information back to its creators. It also stated that it could no longer use. It also stated under 13-year-old, like anyone under 13, could no longer use the Audacity app to comply with data laws. So basically, that's the biggest red flag for me. Like, if you're not. The whole reason that they say that, like when it says like you can't, if you're under the age of 13, then you can't use these apps, is because it's illegal for them to gather data on minors, on anyone under the age of 13. Most companies can't do that. So that's why they tell you, it's the same thing with Twitch. Like there was a story somewhat like sometime last year about a really popular Twitch streamer came out that he was actually 12, not 13. And even though he had literally tons and tons of followers on Twitch, he couldn't do anything with it because he got kicked off of it because of that. Even though he had tons, like thousands of followers on there, and he was a borderline professional, I think Fortnite player, of course, but he got kicked off because he was under 13, and Twitch, they collect data so that way they can make the experience better. So I don't know. Look into it yourself. Like, don't just take my word on it. People too often nowadays with news just kind of listen to what one person or what one headline says and doesn't read into it.
My name is Jonathan, and I am the owner of the company that has taken over Audacity. And I would like to say that everything Josh is saying is absolute fake news. We are not going to sell your information to the Russians.
Even though I was quoted in the article as saying that. I did not say
this information. I did not say anything of the sort. I don't know, man.
Sir, we literally have a transcript of your file of your
and then we will sell your data to Russian hackers. I did not say that. That is false.
Oh my goodness!
Audacity. It was a good run.
I mean, you can still use older versions, and honestly, the older versions, like I don't notice any update. I don't notice that much of a difference between updates. Honestly, personally,
on this laptop, I went from running like, I think it was like 2.12 or something like that. And now I'm 2.42. And honestly, I did notice a difference as far as how smoothly it ran. I did notice a difference. It was a subtle difference, but I don't know. It's strange because, like, for me, I'm not. If they have an ad or something that you have to watch when you open the program up to use it, I'm not going to stress about that. That's fine. Like, I would be okay with that. You know what I mean? Like, because it's a free to use program. It's like some of the apps I use on a regular basis. They're all free to use, and I've used a ton of them for different stuff. The video editing thing that I use, like, I have to watch an ad every single time I need to export a video. And I'm more than okay with it because it's a free to use video editing app that, like, I love to use and it works really well. So it's like, I'm okay with watching ads and stuff like that. It's just like the data mining and stuff, that stuff just freaks me out. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, that's the whole reason social media, like, and well, tech. That's why, at least in the States here, there's been a lot of talk about cracking down on big tech companies from both sides for different reasons from both sides, which we're not going to get political. I don't want to do that, but there's been talk about that stuff because big tech companies like Facebook and Google, like Google has a history and they've been doing this for years. They literally save every search you ever run. And it doesn't like permanently, like it's going back to when you first started Googling, like whatever your account is, like it knows everything you've ever Googled. And what are they going to do with that information? Who the fuck knows? But they think they can use it, and they're either going to sell it or they're going to use it to market shit to you. And I mean, it's the same thing. Like your phones, literally. It sounds so fucking like it sounds so like conspiratorial, but
the thing is, it's not, because it's been proven that it happens. Like
but it irks me. Like I don't know why, but we don't give it up. We know that it's doing this, and we just. Care. Well, it's because it doesn't affect our daily lives all that much. Like we haven't seen a huge negative impact in our daily lives. We are worried about the potential negative impact that we have not really seen, but not really seen yet. I mean, you never know. But at the same time, who knows what it would be? But anyway, this is a really like sad topic about data privacy bullshit. Is anyone even interested in this?
I don't know. I get angry about this. I didn't know all that. So I was just, but like. It's funny when you talk about like everything you've ever Googled. And I'm like, man,
you're gonna see a lot of
that would come back for me over the years, especially recently. Not like, let me rephrase that. Like, okay, one of my Google search, like the other day, Sam was like on my phone and she like went to go type in something on Google, and what was it that came up? It was the term used for gurgling blood, and she was like, "What the fuck are you searching?" And I'm like, it's a long story. There's stuff like that all the time. Like, so I'm like, doing my Reddit horror story writing, and I'm like, I need what's a thing for this, and I'm like typing in all this messed up shit. She's just like, seriously? Like, what? I can just imagine some dude sitting at Google and go, okay, let's see what this TJ guy Googled today. Okay, so he Googled cute puppies. He Googled directions to this gas station. He Googled the Burger King menu. Oh, good call on that, TJ. And he Googled Brazilian fart porn. Oh, all right. Like,
well, he's got an eclectic taste,
right? At least he got some puppies in there, I guess. Whatever.
I don't know. It just frustrates me, I guess. Like it frustrates me that they're keeping all this information on us, and it's all stuff that you would think that really isn't that important. But at the same time, you never know what it could be used for. Like it's the same reason, like we have an Amazon Echo downstairs for when we put one downstairs for when my kid was born, because when she was sleeping, we would need some type of static sound to get her to fall asleep. Sure. We have a noise machine upstairs, but we didn't have one downstairs, and we didn't feel like running back and forth. So my wife had one, or my wife got one, not just for that, but I mean, it's nice because you can just be like, really Alexa, useful. Go play this. I shouldn't have said Alexa, because now everyone's Echo is going to go off.
Alexa.
But yeah, I didn't even think about that. I apologize if anyone's listening.
Can I try?
Go for
Alexa,
it.
Subscribe to the Harder Show. Subscribing to the Harder Show. I
did it. All of a sudden, you see like an influx of 60 new subscribers.
Holy cow! That's all I needed to do.
Yeah. Wow! That's sneaky.
Wait, can I do one more? Can I do one more?
Go for it.
Alexa, subscribe to Still Loading Podcast.
It's your fucking show. Why are you asking me for permission?
Alexa, unsubscribe from Dark Runner on Twitch. Just kidding, buddy. I love
you. But yeah, no. But those things also, they literally listen to you all the time because they have to. It's part of like they literally have to be able to hear their name.
Yeah,
and so they're constantly listening. It weirds me out. I don't like it, but I understand they always have to be listening. But it still irks me that Amazon could, I mean, it's been proven that like Amazon has listened to customers before through their echoes and whatnot.
Dude,
and
I can literally go on my Facebook right now and I guarantee you, I already know what I'm going to see as an ad. 'Cause I was looking up guitar strings earlier, and literally I'm going to like refresh my Facebook and just scroll for a minute. And there's an ad for guitar strings. That too. And there's an ad for guitar strings. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Like, I'm just like, I know what's going to happen. And I say that, and yeah, it is kind of annoying, but also at the same time, it's like, there are some times when I've been like, okay, I'll give you a prime example. I was looking up a specific type of like thing for my sleep app machine, and literally like I couldn't find any websites on it. And then I go on my Facebook and an ad pops up for exactly what I'm looking for. And I was like, thanks, Google. You're welcome, TJ. That freaked me out a little bit because I don't have an Amazon.
I mean, it's weird because part of it's like, oh, that's actually really handy. This is something I really needed. But the other part is that it feeds our I found like this
feeds our consumerism.
Yeah, it feeds our consumerism, and I hate saying that because I sound like a fucking hippie when I say it, and I'm not one. I'm really coming off that way. I feel like I'm listening to myself as I'm speaking. I'm like, I sound like a fucking hippie. I mean, I haven't shaved in like a month, and like, which granted, this isn't anything compared to yours. In fact, my beard fucking sucks, dude. Like it's patchy everywhere. I can't grow a beard.
You got the goatee thing going though.
Yeah, I can. Well, I don't like the goatee. I do like, I just do the bottom. I don't keep the mustache. Right now I have a mustache, like I said, because I've been lazy, but that's about it. And something completely not related though, just to kind of jump topics out.
Yeah,
something
sure.
I find I listened to part of your live stream yesterday that you did. I mean, this really dates when we were recording it. This is the day after your $2.99 live stream, but you were talking about you wanted more video game stuff on your show, just kind of in general. So this might be a fun topic to talk about. So lately in the video game collectors market, it's been kind of starting getting infested with big business, and the reason that it's weird because the collectors market is being infested, and what I mean by that is there are different websites called like Wada Games or Heritage Auctions, and there's a couple other websites that sell graded video games. You know how like you can grade comics and get like a nice grading? There's companies that are starting to do that now too, which is really cool. Like some people think it's a waste of money. I think it's kind of cool because it permanently preserves, or it's meant to help preserve your copy of a game and it gives it a nice grading and whatnot. Well, now that the pandemic last year in 2020, that really spiked the video game prices in the collecting market because every motherfucker wanted video games because they were sitting at home. They had nothing to do.
Of course.
And that attracted some people with deep pockets.
World. Yeah.
Some deep pockets. And this is coming from Pat the NES Punk, or Pat Contry. He's big in the retro game scene. He's a fairly prominent YouTuber as well in the scene. Anyway, he's done stuff with the Angry Video Game Nerd, and
I've
AVGN has
before.
Angry Video Game Nerd. You know, I mean, he literally has over 1 million subs on YouTube. Like he's a
I know him
YouTuber.
well. Yeah, I know him.
And Pat the NES Punk has collaborated with him for a little bit. He doesn't have anyway. So Pat Contry, he's really big into talking about this stuff, and this is literally news today. Like he posted this 22 minutes ago, and I saw it on Twitter before we recorded. A sealed Super Mario 64, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess how much it's sold for?
Oh gosh,
and it's American, so it's obviously it's a little bit lower than your Canadian dollars.
Say $357.60. I'm way off, aren't I? I have no idea what.
1.5 million. 1.5 million.
I knew I was way low, but I was just like having fun. But like, what?
So here's why this is a problem. I have no issue with collectors markets.
Freaking issue.
it's an issue for a couple of reasons. One, it's artificially inflated. Like, okay, so a couple years ago, the Superman, the first issue of Superman got sold at an auction. It was graded. It was one that it was a 9.8 or something like it, something obscenely high. Like you never see
high,
10s.
yeah.
It was rated really high. It still had white pages from a comic book from 1932. That shit normally yellows by almost 100 years later. Or I don't know if it was 1932, but it was in the early 1900s, right? That it's old. It should not have lasted as long as it did. But the way that comic book was stored, it kept it in good condition. Someone found it, preserved it, and it's in beautiful mint condition. It's sold for, I actually don't even remember how. Hold on, let me see how much it sold for. Superman
sold for a lot of money.
Hold on, Superman 1. Sold 3.25 million. It went for 3.25 million.
I was going to guess a couple mil, so.
That was earlier this year on April 6th, 2021. It sold for 3.25 million. Now, here's the thing. As much as that's obscene for someone to spend that much money for like a piece of paper, I actually get it because I'm spending a shitload of money for my video games for a piece of plastic. Like, I get it, right? And that makes more sense to me because there's probably less than 100 copies in the world of Action Comics. I'm not a comics guy, so anyone listening, you may actually know that number. I apologize if I'm wrong. And on top of that, there's probably less than 10 in that condition of like 9.8 level condition
with white pages and everything. Yeah,
Action Comics #1, right? So I can understand something being sold for 3.25 million when there's less than 10 of them in the world, right? Mm-hmm. I get that. It's crazy, but I understand it. Now, let's look at Super Mario 64. So I'm going to look at Nintendo 64 top selling games. I want to find out how many games Super Mario 64 actually sold. 11.91 million. There are 11.91 million copies. Sorry, 11,910,000 copies of Super Mario 64 in the world. I don't know how many of that is specific to North America. I'm sure it's a lot. But even so, there are 11 million copies of that game in the world. Let's say we even be conservative. Let's say there's 4 million of that was in the US.
Sure.
Sorry, not just the US, North America. So this includes Canada as well. Why is that being sold for 1.5 million? There's over 1 million there's literally millions of them. So that's what I mean when when I say the prices are being artificially pumped up, because it makes no sense for something that literally has millions of copies that you can go out and buy somewhere to get. And the other reason why, so Pat Contri even speculates, he's 99% sure of these as well, that this is a concerted, it's basically conspiratorial in essence, where it's a concerted effort between Wata Games, which is like a video game selling website for those sealed graded copies, Heritage Auctions, which auctions a lot of other stuff, and then like a small group of collectors from other hobbies with deep pockets, and they artificially inflate the prices, and it's just dumb of them, because I don't know if they're trying to jack up the prices to set precedents to make everything much more expensive, when it makes no sense, when there's literally millions of copies of these things around. It's just nuts. And it sucks because, I mean, this is for sealed stuff, thankfully. So if you're not looking to collect sealed things, I don't think you're going to have to worry too much about it. But I don't know, man. It irks me that it doesn't even irk me. It saddens me that people are kind of taking advantage of this fandom and in this passion,
That's I'm looking up, just out of curiosity, there is a copy of a game I spoke about before on my old podcast, Two Guys in a Game. there is a copy of just the cartridge, and it looks to be it's in pretty not great shape, of a N64 game. It is authentic, cleaned, and tested, and it is for sale on eBay for $2,021.29 plus $50 Canadian for shipping, folks.
What game is it?
Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut 64.
Okay, that actually makes sense, though.
Yes, but have you ever played Clay Fighter?
No, but that's not the point of the quality of the game. It's the rarity.
It's the rarity of it.
That game was a Blockbuster exclusive, and so there was only so many versions that you could actually buy commercially because it was only really made available for rent. Yeah,
I never knew that. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
That's why that's so expensive. It was a Blockbuster exclusive. Clay Fighter originally wasn't that expensive. Like, I think there's a Super Nintendo and N64 Clay Fighter, but the Sculptor's Cut, I believe, or like Sculptor's Cut 1/2 or whatever it is specifically, is really expensive because it was a Blockbuster exclusive and you could only get it through this. So there's not a lot of copies of it. And the reason it's probably $2,000 now is because the video game market just shot straight up.
Right up.
I mean, I think that's insane, mind you. $2,000. I can't justify $2,000
pay. I don't know.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's just nuts, man. It's nuts what it bothers me that I can't believe it. So let me actually see. If I go to N64 and I type in Super Mario 64,
I'd be curious. Like, I don't even know what Super Mario 64. The last time I saw a copy of Super Mario 64 for sale in person, I think it was like $50-$60 for just the cartridge. Like, it wasn't that expensive of a game. But like, you know, like the one I saw, actually I saw one on the Facebook Marketplace not that long ago when the guy was wanting $50 or best offer for it. Mm-hmm. So like, it's not a hard game to find. And actually I saw one thing I saw the other day. I meant to send it to you, but the ad was already gone because it sold that quickly. A guy in town here had a copy of Super Smash Bros. 64 with the box. Everything was pretty pristine, and he had it up for $200.
Whoa.
And I was like, that's low, right? That seems low.
For Super Smash, I don't know. That it could be. Hold on. I you know what? I will tell you right now.
I was, because I looked and I was like, man, that seems low for because like the box was in. I mean, it wasn't like encased or anything.
That's a little high for it.
Okay?
Right now, I'm seeing, at least on this the website that I usually go to, I'm seeing that they are like actually a couple months ago it spiked for $200. Now it dropped to about $160. So
okay, so $200 or best offer. I mean, that's not.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, you want to look up a game for me?
Sure.
I bet you can guess the game.
Aiden Chronicles.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I actually was in a game. No, actually, I was in a game store literally earlier today with a friend. I hadn't seen in a while. Okay, they were selling it for higher than what this website's saying it is. It's worth about $27 American. They were selling it for $45.
See, I bought it 15 years ago ish for $70. Just the cartridge. Actually, wow. That's a lie, because I got it for $50 even because he cut me a deal, quote unquote. Because the game had been sitting there for a long time, and I'd looked at it 3 or 4 times.
What you said 15 years ago?
Yeah. So like,
that's what the interesting. 15 years ago, you're looking at 2006, right? So the N64 was discontinued 4 years earlier in 2002, and so this is an interesting topic. Actually, we can kind of talk about this a bit. Video game price. People are mad that video game prices are getting up to $70.
Yeah, high.
Yeah, especially how much is it Canadian?
About 70, $80. Okay, the last brand new game that I bought, and this is hilarious. The last brand new game that I bought, like the day it came out, was WWE 2K18. I bought that game the day it came out, and I bought the deluxe edition for $89.99 on Amazon. And now, if I wanted to, okay, it's like the last game I was going to buy, I was looking at was the deluxe edition of, I think it was Red Dead Redemption 2. And from what I remember, it was like $129 for what I wanted. And I was like, $129? I'm like, no. Like, like what?
So here's what's weird, though. So we're kind of spoiled with this. So I'm conflicted, right? Part of me is like $60 is already kind of pricey. That's what it is. What does it cost for you in Canada? Because I know the exchange rate's a little different.
$80, give or take, 70, 80
I
bucks.
think that's what I actually, hold on. $74.77 is what $60 is in the $60 US is $74.77 in Canada. In Canada.
In Canada.
So we'll just say like 75, right?
Yeah.
So you have about we've had that same price point for pretty much since the PS2 era, right?
Honestly, yeah, we have.
We've had the same price point of $60 for the last 2 years, or for the last 3 generations, practically, like almost 20 years. 20 years.
$60 to $80 range for the sake of argument.
Yeah. So when you look back, though, at how much games have cost prior to that, some Super Nintendo games in the US, the prices fluctuated. If it was a small, it really much depend on how large the game was. RPGs in the US cost over $100 in the 90s. In the 90s. So adjust that for inflation, you're looking at more than 100 now. And we're paying technically less money for more content than we ever have.
Yeah, that's true.
So part of me is like, this is a great fucking deal, and they're just trying to even like one of the ways the companies try to mitigate that is with all the DLC stupid pay to win bullshit, which we all hated, and understandably so. Now with that said, though, game companies make a lot of fucking money. They make so much money. So it's like, part of me is like, well, $60, if it goes up to 70, that sucks. But like, games were more expensive back in the day, and we like much more, like significantly more expensive back in the day. Like Superman 64 for Nintendo 64, I think was like $100. Like anything that was cartridge based. Yeah. Anything that was cartridge based was like stupid expensive.
See, it's hard for me because like when I got my N64, I never, ever remember games being that expensive. Ever.
Well, but we were also so young. Like our parents bought us games mostly.
And when I was buying games myself, because I was always late to the party with my systems, right? So when I was old enough to buy N64 games for myself before I got my GameCube, I mean, I go to the flea market or Blockbuster, and get a copy of Star Wars Rogue Squadron for $15. And yeah, it was an older game, but like it's new to me. I've never played it. And Star Fox 64, I got it for $20. Like, and then jumping from that to the GameCube, the games, I mean, they had to have been cheap on the GameCube. They had to have been because I could afford them. I feel like I never paid more than $50 for a game on the GameCube. I could be wrong though. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong.
I think some of them were 50, but I don't. Either way, it was like we've had a cheaper thing for a lot longer than anyone else in the past generations. And second, but at the same merit, video game companies are making literally more money than Hollywood, music industry, and TV industry combined. So it's like, well, they're making all that money, but then at the same time, though, like there are literally stories of games being commercial and critical successes, and it bankrupted the company Bioshock Infinite is my go-to example. That game sold well. It was well received by both the public and the critics at the time, and Irrational Games went under because the game was just so costly to make. So it's like, would have an extra $10 per person save them? Maybe. It's weird because part of me wants to say fuck those companies, they make enough money as it is, but then the other part of me is like, if they charge more, they can take more risks and make more weird games and not just the same bullshit over and over again. Not just a million Fortnite clones and not just last gen it was all Call of Duty clones, and then so you have Call of Duty, you have Fortnite, and then you have whatever, no one's really tried to copy Minecraft, maybe Roblox, but that was already an existing brand, I believe, before Minecraft even became a thing. I don't even know what Roblox is. I just know it's super popular and makes a shitload of money.
Said it, but at the end of the day, what the thing is if we as gamers want there to be more unique, fun games and stuff like that, we got to put up or shut up, so to speak. Like, we can't, like, I'm in that category where you always hear me, oh, there's stupid clone games and look, another Call of Duty, blah, blah, blah. Like, but then, my dumb ass wants to wait until games are discounted to buy them, right? So it's like, you can't have it both ways,
That's the thing. Well, the nice thing though now is, even though AAA games have that issue, indie games have become huge. Indie games have filled the gap where the AAA games can't reach anymore because the studios have become too bloated to really make smaller scale games. Some of them still do. I actually think the last big AAA developer that I can think of, I'm sure there's others, there has to be others, but the last one I can think of that did something where they didn't make a gigantic $60 game, they made something a little bit more experimental and charged less for it, was actually Insomniac, the company that did the Spider-Man game for PS4. They do Ratchet and Clank, they do the Resistance games on PS3. On the PS3, they released 3 Ratchet and Clank games that were more experimental. They had some big ones. They had $60 big Ratchet and Clank games, but then they also released these $30 ones that had, like, what if Ratchet and Clank was a tower defense game? What if Ratchet and Clank was a 4-player co-op shooter, like shoot 'em up game? And then they even added like a $30 Ratchet and Clank that was a traditional Ratchet and Clank, but it was just a shorter game. So they just made a smaller, more condensed game that kind of mixed up the Ratchet and Clank formula a little bit. But they only charged $30-$40 for these instead of the full $60 price. And I would like to see more devs do stuff like that. It doesn't even have to be necessarily short experiences, but it could just be like weird ones that they're like, we don't know if this is gonna sell well, but we didn't spend a lot of money on it. Like, that's how games like Pa Rappa the Rapper came about, and I'm Jammer Lammy. And like Sony in the early days, like on the PS1, they had full $60 games and they had cheaper $40 games, were games that were like more experimental, and they didn't really expect to sell well, but it didn't cost a lot to make, so it wouldn't be hard for them to recoup their losses. I would love to see a return to that from the big AAA companies, where they try these small little bite-sized experiences. Ubisoft kind of did that with Far Cry 3. They did this game called Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, which was it was a standalone expansion. You didn't even need the original Far Cry 3, but it was built off the same engine. And if you haven't played Blood Dragon, it's the most 80s thing in the world, and it's fucking great.
Awesome.
It's so good. Sorry, I've been talking so much, man.
That's all good, buddy. No. And that's the thing is, I knew, like, when I was like, oh, like, we should have you, like, we should do a podcast. I always love having you on because, like, for me, it's like I've just learned a whole bunch of stuff in the last hour that it's like, this is awesome for me. I love it. Right. So it's fun, but something I wanted to ask you 2 things. Number one, how overall has the show been going for you? Like, I mean, obviously, the kind of basically, as far as the gaming part of this conversation so far, this is the kind of stuff you talk about on your podcast. Obviously, you'll focus on one game, but how has the podcast been going the last little while? Like, I mean, obviously, like, as you've spoken about on your podcast quite a bit, you did have to do some banking of some episodes. So how has it been for you the last couple of months with the show?
It's been good. I've been, I don't know. It's interesting. Like I've had months. Overall my downloads have gone down, and I don't know why. Unfortunately, I think what really killed me was I was doing weekly. I went weekly for the first time ever in the history of my podcast last summer for my summer of PS2, where I dedicated that whole summer to because PlayStation 2 turned 20. Actually, this year I'm doing I already did an episode on the Game Boy Advance because that turned 20 this year. The GameCube turns 20 this year. So does the original Xbox. And I didn't even fucking think about it. The Super Nintendo turns 30 this year. And I'm like, damn it, I can't do the Super Nintendo. I can't do a Super Nintendo episode. I completely forgot about that because I already doing so many others. I literally have, it's not all recorded, but I literally have up until like all the way through November schedule, like set, like of topics. I already have that all planned out. But so I went weekly for the summer up until I wanted to see if I could do it. I wanted to see if I could stay weekly now that I had, because one of the things that, and you know this because you're a solo podcaster as well, it's fucking hard to find content on a weekly basis. Yeah. It's really fucking difficult when you're by yourself. Because it takes a very specific person to be able to do a solo podcast. I mean, speaking to themselves, not with a guest, speaking to themselves constantly over and over and over again. Bill Burr does it on his podcast, but that's Bill Burr. He's a stand-up comedian. He could it makes sense why he's able to do that. I'm not Bill Burr. I'm nowhere near as funny as Bill Burr. So there's no way I could do that. So it's just, it's hard. So I wanted to challenge myself. So I did the summer of PS2 as a way to challenge myself to be like, I want to do this weekly. I want to be able to go weekly. And by having already knowing what the schedule was for that entire summer, not having to think up topics, by not having to worry about what it was going to be, I was able to focus on just getting the scheduling done. Like I didn't have to do the brainstorming. I could just get the scheduling done. And I was planning that shit. The first episode of the summer of PS2 back in 2020 was recorded in winter of 2019. Like that's how far in advance I was prepping for that thing, just because I didn't know how much work it would take. And I'm glad I did, because it was a lot of episodes to do. So I did all that. And then once the summer of PS2 ended, I wanted to see, could I keep this going? Could I realize, like when it was getting close to the end and I had everything already recorded or already edited and in the can, I wanted to see if I could keep this going. And so I pushed it. I made it to the end of the year. And then I was like, I got to stop in January because my kid's going to be born. Yeah. So I don't want to commit to weekly content when I'm trying to learn how to take care of a newborn. And for the first, it's kind of crazy in retrospect to think about it. Let me look up where my episodes started going weekly again. But I want to say 3 months. I think it was January, February. I'm looking on my phone right now. Hold on. It was. Okay, hold on. Yeah. It was January, February, and March. I went just every other week. I did 3 months of just that. But then I kind of went back and I was like, all right, I want to go weekly again, but I don't want to inconvenience my wife. I want something that I wanted to do as much as I can without taking away from the kid. I wanted to make sure I spent as much time with the kid as possible. And arguably, I'm still not doing as well as I could be with that. So I need to continue. I need to work towards it, but I was able to balance it. So I went back to my roots. I was like, well, what did I do with the summer of PS2 that made that successful? Well, I knew what I was going to do before I had to do it. I knew what that was going to be. So what I've been doing lately is I started mini episodes, and those honestly aren't always that many. Some of them, the longer ones tend to stretch to about 55 minutes to almost an hour. and the shorter ones are about 15 to 20. But what I've been doing is every other week, I release a mini episode. In fact, the time we're recording this, full episode's going to be released tonight, but the most recent episode was an episode where what I've been doing is I started a rewatch series. So, there's podcasts like Office Girls that do a rewatch of The Office. It's Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey from The Office watching The Office episode by episode and doing an episode of the podcast on it. Scrubs is doing that too with Zach Braff and Donald Faison. So I kind of want to do that. I mean, I don't have any stars from it, but of like video game themes. So there's a cartoon called Captain N the Game Master, and it's a really shitty late 80s, early 90s cartoon where this kid named Kevin gets sucked into Videoland, what's called Videoland, and all the video game characters from his video games are there, and he has to save Videoland. It's really dumb, it's really bad, but it's fun to watch. So
it's so bad. It's fun.
What?
It's like so bad it's fun kind of thing.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And so I invited my friend Dexter Morrill, who's an artist. I had him on a couple times last year, and we are going through it episode by episode. And it's nice is because it's not a huge commitment, because since it's it really only comes out once a month, because on the other mini episode, I started a series on the history of RTS games, of the real-time strategy genre. So I've been doing those 2 minis and then finding full topics for the off week. So I have literally all of November planned out. And actually, the time this episode was released, you said August 5th. Excuse me. My next episode it'll be out this coming Sunday, which I guess would be then August 8th, is going to be called Tales from the Island. And this isn't one of the mini episodes. I'm doing an episode called Tales from the Island. And last year was a pretty fucked up year for a lot of people. A lot of crazy stuff happened to a lot of people, and the world was a little crazy. So one of the things in video game history that is super important is contextual preservation. And I promise this will all tie in together. I know it sound like two different things, but they all tie together. I promise you. I talked about this on my own episode where I talked about video game preservation, that there are 3 different types of video game preservation. I'm going to go over this quickly so I don't go on a ramble. There's physical, digital, and contextual preservation. Physical meaning the physical game systems and cartridges and everything. Digital meaning you digitally buy games, or you find ROMs, or you find digital files of the games.
Yeah.
Contextual preservation is a lot harder to pinpoint. Contextual preservation is it's the story of the world around the game, not just the game world, but the world as we know it that occurred around when this came out. So, like, a perfect example, Mortal Kombat is known as a super violent game. Why is that? Because in the 90s, it was literally in a Senate hearing that was in Washington, D.C., where people were trying to argue, do video games cause violence? Mortal Kombat and Night Trap were the 2 biggest targets at the time, and they were trying to show how video games are a bad influence on people and a bad influence on children. And it was a big Senate judiciary hearing. You couldn't, if you just got a cartridge of Mortal Kombat, you'd be like, wow, this is a violent video game. Okay. But if you didn't know that it literally helped, that court hearing led to the creation of the ESRB, of what we know as rated teen and mature and E for everyone and all that other stuff, that's super fucking important. Yeah. But you wouldn't know that if you only had the cartridge of Mortal Kombat. So, bringing it full circle to what Tales of the Island is about, why it involves 2020. One of the most important games of last year was Animal Crossing New Horizons, and that was super important because it gave everyone who played it a much needed respite from what 2020 was. There were people who held birthday parties in that game. There were people who had anniversaries in that game. There were people who had full-on parties who the only way they could connect to their friends, even though they were just 5 miles down the road because no one could leave their houses, the only way they could actually be in a house together was through that game. So when you see a cartridge of Animal Crossing New Horizons, you're not going to know any of that. So what Tales from the Island is that it's meant to tell just a small part of the contextual preservation that this is going to be. This episode was actually going to come out on when was it going to come out? It was going to come out on the 25th of July, but I had to push it back to this coming Sunday on the 8th. But I have a fairly big Twitch streamer on it named Oh Hey It's David. He's got like over 10,000 followers on Twitch. He's partnered. He's a big Twitch streamer. He did a thing called he did American Ninja Warrior, but within Animal Crossing's New Horizons. Oh my God. So he literally had a bunch of people fly onto the island, his island. He created his island to become an obstacle course, and the players would have to run through the obstacle course, and they would time it, and they would have to see who would win the challenges. And it was really cool. There was other people I couldn't get on, but I really wanted to. I had him on before, Xwater. He is another very popular Twitch streamer, partnered. He did an episode with me for Breath of the Wild, but he did a couple things. He created his own casino and invited his friends over to gamble, and they could win like bells and stuff like that, because that's the currency of Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing. Sorry, I keep saying crossings. Animal Crossing. And then he also did a Deal or No Deal, but to not get copyrighted, he said Del or No Del. Actually, Xwater is a fellow Canadian as well. Yeah. Well, he's from, I think he's actually I think he's from Toronto area, I believe.
Oh, well, there you go.
So yeah, if I remember correctly, I don't know though. He might not be. There's a lot of cool experiences. I have the whole reason I had to get this pushed back is because I couldn't, because some guests fell through, but like I had some friends who literally, just celebrated birthday parties in Animal Crossing. Like there's a lot of cool stuff.
There's a lot of stuff to break down
that happened. So I wanted to preserve the contextual history behind it in a small way, in any small way that I could. Mm-hmm. And I thought this would be a cool thing to do. And I thought it'd be interesting for people to people like hearing about nostalgia. People like hearing about good times that they've had with other people. You know, like you enjoy hearing happy stories that other people had. Like, oh, I went to, the shore house with some friends, and, we stayed up all night drinking, but then we were gambling with pretzels on the bathroom floor or something like that. I don't know. Like weird shit like that. Like that's fun stories that you want to hear. So I figured it'd be kind of cool to do that, but with Animal Crossing. So I'm really excited for it. I've recorded one segment of it already. It was only 20 minutes. So I need to get more people together, and I'm hoping I will have enough people. I mean, it's going to be out on the 8th regardless. So hopefully by this time I have gotten enough people to compile a full episode of it. But I'm looking forward to it because it's something that I think Animal Crossing was a very important part of people's lives in 2020. And it's even more nuts. Like it's sold, like the Nintendo Switch became so hard to find because of that game. So let me actually see Nintendo Switch top selling games. Let me see what is currently on their list. Yeah. So Animal Crossing New Horizons is, wow. It is number 2. Number 1 was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with 35.39 million units sold.
Wow.
Now, here's the thing, though. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, 1 is a reissue of Mario Kart 8 from the Wii U. 1 is a reissue. 2, it is it came out on April 28th, 2017. Animal Crossing New Horizons came out in 2020. So in a year,
it became
and it's in second, and it's at 32.63 million, only 3 million behind Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And Animal Crossing had never really seen that type of like popularity. Like it was always a popular series, but never that popular. Sure. And if you think about it, Mario Odyssey, which was a huge thing, 20 million. It's number 6. So it's that far. Like it sold 12 million more than a
Mario game.
It sold 12 million more than the lead Mario game on the console. Like it's a super important game, and I want to be at least. It's not enough because you're never going to be able to tell everyone's stories.
Sure,
but I want to at least have some small semblance of the importance that game had on everybody
in this
during the 2020 pandemic.
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing it. I think it's going to be really cool. And it's something that's really fun what you're doing, right? Like, because again, it is super important. And, we all have stories about certain games. So that's really cool, man. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Thank you. I like, one of the things I've also been trying to do this year is just try weirder ideas for episodes, not just simply just do a video game review, which I have done, but I actually feel like I've done too few of them this year because I've been doing so many goofy ideas. Like I started out the year with our normal retrospective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ended 2020 with our annual retrospective together. Then I did hockey games with Patrick Hickey Jr. Dude, Patrick Hickey Jr., you should get him on your show. He is an author who writes books where he interviews the developers who make video games. So he calls it's called The Minds Behind the Games, and he just interviews them and kind of tells like stories about he tells their story during the making of the game, and it's really interesting. It's well written. It's a good book.
Kind of breaking down everything that they were.
It's a really good book series. He's an awesome guy, and you will fucking love him. One, he loves wrestling. I keep using my thumb. He's a wrestling fanatic, so you could talk to him about wrestling. I know you're not a big hockey guy, but he likes hockey a lot. He loves video games. He also just came out with his first comic book. He's a writer of a new comic book called Condry, which I have not read yet, but he's been selling the hell out of it. It seems like he's really happy with it, and he's a good dude. He's really easy to talk to too. I think you're going to get a good guest out of him.
Awesome. I'll have to look him up.
So then I did I did a review game. I did Uncharted Lost Legacy, but then I started doing weird things. I did a playthrough of a text adventure
I remember
on
that.
a game.
That was a good one.
That was a lot of fun. I did a James Bond text adventure. So I've been trying different stuff. I interviewed the producer of one of the executive producers from Animaniacs, the Animaniacs reboot. Like the cartoon, like someone who actually worked on the cartoon. Still blows my fucking mind that I got someone on like that.
Sweet.
He was a nice guy. His name's Gabe Swartz. He's a cool dude. But yeah, so it's just been fun. I've been trying new things, and I think that's what 2021 was. A lot of game reviews, which was fine. 2020 was the year of a lot of game reviews, which was fine. Yeah. 2021, and I think I'm really trying to do ideas that I've always wanted to do. And you know what? I'm just going to put this out into the ether. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I want it to happen. I want to do an episode on where I already found a perfect version of it. I already found a perfect story for it, but I wanted to do a dramatic reading of, or not, I guess it is dramatic, but a reading of a video game short story. And it's serious. Like, I'm not going to be playing it off for laughs. Mm-hmm. I want to have like sound effects. I want like actual audio production
like
put into it.
Drama kind of deal.
Mm-hmm, an audio drama style thing. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off. I already have the story selected before I even, it's weird because before I even do it, I'm at an impasse. Like I need to ask the author for permission to do this. I know I have to do that because if he says no, I'm not going to do it. Like even if I'm legally okay, which I don't think I would be, but even if I was, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. So I'm going to ask the author. But the thing is, though, I don't even know if I can do this. So why would I bother asking the author, go and get him like excited for potentially excited for like, oh, someone's going to read my story and raise more awareness about it. And then I don't do it at all. So I'm like, do I do all the work only to then have it get turned down? Or do I have him say yes and then not do all the work have it not work out?
You got to ask first. I think that's what you should do, because as you know, honestly, not on the same level, but as someone who I mean, even today I've had 3 people reach out wanting to do read-throughs of some of my Reddit stuff, and 9 times out of 10 those people don't end up doing it. So it happens all the time. Obviously, again, it's a totally different world, but like, you know, I'm sure that if you ask and it doesn't end up happening, it's like, you know, it's not like he's going to be like, oh, curse this guy, he is the worst human ever. Like, you know. Yeah.
That's a good point. Cool, I could just be totally honest up front and be like, listen, I don't know if I have the resources to do this, but I want to try if you're willing to let me try it. So, and I'll let him know if it ends up not happening. So I'm putting that out into the universe. I want to try my hand at it, see if it works.
That would be awesome. You got to keep me posted on that, because that's up my wheelhouse too. So
will do.
Awesome, buddy. Well, Josh, it's been a pleasure, man, getting to kind of just catch up with you, because again, like we said, we hadn't talked in a few months, so it's good to see you. Best of luck with everything in your adorable little one, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that Tour of the Island episode and everything else you do, man. You know how much I love your stuff. So,
thanks, man. Thank you.
Everyone, be sure to go check out Josh everywhere you find your podcast, Still Loading Podcast, and on the social media. Still Loading Pod. Check him out. He very much deserves your support. Josh, buddy, I'll talk to you later.
Have a good one, man.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listen to The Harder Show right now. Are you in a band? Maybe you're a business owner of some kind, a performer, maybe a pro wrestler, an event promoter, an athlete, or maybe you're just an everyday person who needs some photo editing done. You need a great graphic design guy, and have I ever got the hookup for you? My man and close personal friend, Mr. Jason Reese from Jaybird Digital Arts. Whether you need logos, t-shirts, stickers, tickets, business cards, banners, menu, brochures, flyers, posters, Facebook banner videos, door hangers, photo editing and restoration, print ads, lyric video editing, signs, notepads, window clings, letterhead, bookmarks, programs, magnets, greeting cards, calendars, rack cards, invitations, envelopes, pens. Jason will work with you to develop a style that is unique to you and that tells everybody just how special your business, event, or you personally are, and you will stand out from the crowd. On top of the fact that he does offer free delivery between Cobourg, Ontario and Kingston, Ontario, message him today right now for a free quote. That's right, a free quote. Tell him about your idea. You got something outside the box, he will make it happen. With great rates and service, you cannot go wrong. I've used Jason literally for everything over the past 3.5 years, and I cannot say enough good things about the man himself and his work. So contact him today on the web at jaybirddigitalarts.com or on social media under Jaybird Digital Arts. That's JAYBIRD digitalarts.com. You can also email him at jaybird.digital.arts@gmail.com. And always keep in mind that his business is successful when your business looks good. All right, guys, there you have it. My chat with Josh Covel from Still Loading Podcast. Hope that you guys enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun getting to talk with Josh. Always a blast talking with my buddy. One thing I forgot to mention in the intro, that episode was supposed to also be video, but I had some issues with the video files as well. So if at any point there was something that either of us referred to, talking about, oh, this, and like, see this or whatever, that's why. So I do apologize about that. Things like that don't happen a lot where there's like issues like that with the Harder Show. I got things pretty much on lock these days, but every once in a while something creeps through. But either way, it was a great conversation with my boy Josh. So Josh, thank you so very much, my man, for coming on and all of the support. And thank you so very much for the support. You know I love you. You know I appreciate you. We got some really cool stuff coming up here. I'm hoping to be back in kind of the full swing of things next week with a brand new video and audio episode, possibly with my man Chris from Dragged, talking about his new single and catching up with him. That's the hope. But also I got some really great interviews scheduled coming up, so could not be happier for that. Stay tuned to The Harder Show, folks. We got a lot of great content coming up over the next few months, and I'll catch you next time on The Harder Show. Take it easy, guys.